Hello, my name is Barbara Leland, and I'm a certified holistic health coach in Huntington Beach, and I do the healthy eating classes here at Hoag Cancer Center. And today we're continuing on our discussion from last week. Last week we were talking about the microbiome, and hence the title, I've Got a Gut Feeling. And we are continuing today by doing a cooking demo and making a fermented food, which is probiotic. So let's get to it. And what we're going to be making today is curtido, and you should have the recipe. And the recipe, if you do not have it, the recipe is below the YouTube. You'll see a link for it, and you can get the recipe there, as well as the PowerPoint. Okay, so we're going to talk first about the ingredients we're going to be using today. The first main ingredient is red cabbage. So red cabbage, and you want to use the organic on that. The benefits are huge on red cabbage. There's a lot of benefits, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, vitamin C, vitamin K, fiber, and it's 70% insoluble and 30% soluble. And if you remember, we talked last week about prebiotic foods, and the soluble fiber is the prebiotic. So that's going to feed the good bacteria, prebiotic. It's going to feed the good bacteria in your system, in your gut, and the insoluble fiber is what helps keeps things moving and clean. Okay, so cabbage is great for this. It's heart healthy, and it has something called sulfur. I can't even say it, but it's what gives it that sulfur smell, and that is the cancer-fighting properties are in that sulforaphane, or you can say sulfur-smelling. And also in the antioxidants, there's an antioxidant called anthocyanin, and that is also cancer-fighting. So cabbage is very good. It's the anti-inflammatory properties are throughout the body, but also it helps inflammation in the gut. And that may help if you're going through cancer treatment. That may help with some of the side effects, intestinal side effects of the treatment. Also, if you put the cabbage leaf on your skin, it can help with reduce inflammation of your skin, on your skin. If you're damaged, if you're cut or something like that, you can use cabbage leaves. Okay, and so what about green cabbage? So what's the difference between the red and the green cabbage? Both of them are high in fiber, they're nutrients, antioxidants. Either one is a really good choice. They both have a small amount of probiotic bacteria before it's even fermented. So both become a good choice for a probiotic food. So think green cabbage. Usually you see green cabbage when someone's making sauerkraut, right? You don't usually see a red cabbage, but quite often you'll see a red cabbage when someone's making kimchi. Anyway, the difference is they're both very good for you, but red cabbage or purple cabbage contains anthocyanin, which I was telling you before, which is an antioxidant. It's a flavonoid that helps reduce your risk of heart attack, lowers blood pressure, and is cancer fighting. It's got about 4.5 times the antioxidants that green cabbage does, and it has almost twice as much vitamin C as green cabbage. So they're both good choices, but purple cabbage wins. And then we're going to be using red onion, and red onion is antibacterial. It has quercetin in it, which works against bad bacteria. It's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. It helps your blood sugar, helps to regulate your blood sugar. Brain function, it improves your memory and helps to clear brain fog. Also very important if you're going through cancer treatment. That can help with that. It's prebiotic, so again, it feeds the probiotic, or it feeds the good bacteria in your system. It supports your liver. It's high in potassium, which helps your blood pressure. It also has, because of the way it smells, that sulforaphane, again with cancer-fighting properties, and it's high in vitamin B and C. So lots of good things going on here with red onion, and so we have lots of choices with onion. They're all good for you, all good sources of antioxidants and nutrients. They're all prebiotic. Red and yellow are higher in antioxidants. Yellow onions have the highest sulfur content, and red onions have anthocyanins that are not found in yellow or white. So just some differences. You know, all the onions are good for you, but for this recipe we're using red, and this is what you're going to get out of it. Okay, carrots. Again, all these things are anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. Again, anthocyanin. And that the darker the carrot, the more of these antioxidants that are there. Beta-carotene, which converts to vitamin A. Carotenoids, which are phytonutrients. All of these colorful vegetables have phytonutrients, and they protect against cancer. Lutein, which is good for eye health. Lycopene, which fights cancer and helps prevent heart disease. Prebiotic, again, and they're high in potassium. Again, helps with blood pressure. So what about all the different colors of the carrots? So they're all good, but again, the darker the color, the greater the concentration of anthocyanin. Okay? Peppers, which we're using just a little bit of peppers today. They're antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. Again, beta-carotene in these colorful peppers that we're using. They have carotenoids, again, phytonutrients, lycopene, prebiotic, potassium, and vitamin C. So what's the difference between the peppers? They're all the same. These are all the same fruit, but the colors indicate the stage of ripeness. So the green is the least ripe, and the red is the most ripe. And the more ripe the pepper, the higher the antioxidants, because again, you're getting more of that color in it. The green being the least ripe, that's often people when they have problems with digesting peppers, it's often with green peppers. And it's because of the fact that they're really not ripe yet. Okay? Garlic, antibiotic, antioxidant, antibacterial, antiviral. You start feeling sick, you take quantities of garlic. That's going to help you fight that germ, that virus. Helps blood pressure, helps detoxify heavy metals, and it lowers your bad cholesterol, and it supports your immunity. And then cilantro, we've talked about this before, it's antimicrobial, and that can help protect against food poisoning. I don't know if you heard about the salmonella that was happening in LA this week with the Italian deli meats, I think it was. I'm not sure which ones they were, you can look it up. But throw some cilantro on there doesn't mean it's going to, you're not going to have, you can eat bad meat, but it will help. It'll help protect against food poisoning. It's antibacterial, antifungal, antioxidant. It's cleansing, and it can help cleanse you of heavy metals such as mercury, and it helps regulate your blood sugar. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be fermenting these foods. And what is fermentation? That's when the yeast and the bacteria that are on the cabbage come into contact with the sugars that are in the cabbage, and they grow. And so it creates conditions that promote the growth of the probiotic, of the beneficial probiotic. Okay, so as it ferments, those sugars and the yeast and the bacteria all work together, and they create probiotics. So if you've never eaten fermented foods, you want to start out slow. And just when you make this, just take a sip or two of the liquid, and then you can see how you do with that, and then you can move on to just a bite of this says sauerkraut, but we're talking about curtivo today, and just watch and see if it bothers you. Take about a month to work your way up to 2 forkfuls per day. That's if you've never eaten fermented foods. You most likely have, if you've eaten pickles or soy sauce even is fermented. Things like that. Vinegars are fermented. They're not probiotic, but they are fermented. So there's a number of things that you have eaten. You probably are not in this stage. and if you're in good health, but so the first one was if you have digestive issues. If you're in good health and you've never eaten fermented foods, start with a forkful per day and work your way up to two per day. And then you'll have a chance to get used to it. And then if you already eat fermented foods, you start with 1 or 2 forkfuls a day and work your way up to 2 to 3 forkfuls with 2 to 3 meals a day. So you're taking a lot of probiotics. Now, it doesn't have to be just the sauerkraut, because that could get a little old to eat that 3 times a day. But there's other items such as tempeh and, as I was saying before, pickles and yogurt. And it doesn't have to be dairy yogurt. It can be non-dairy yogurt. There's a number of things that you can eat that are fermented that are going to bring probiotic into your system. And a serving size is, like I said, two forkfuls or 2 spoonfuls, and that's about 30 grams. I don't know if you can read this, because I certainly can't, but, and I can't remember what it says either. But this is when you're having sauerkraut. If you have a half a cup, it's about 100 grams of the sauerkraut. Okay, so the common dose, if you're taking supplements, is anywhere from 5 to 10 billion CFUs. 1 gram, this is why we're talking here about the amount of grams, 1 gram of fermented food, kimchi, sauerkraut, sour pickles, yogurt, kefir, and kombucha, they may contain 1,000 to 100 million. I know that's pretty vague, but it depends on how long it's been fermented, what the food is, etc. 2 tablespoons of sauerkraut is about 30 grams. That amount may contain 30,000 to 3 billion. It's still less than the supplements, but you're not just having sauerkraut, hopefully. Hopefully you're having other things like yogurt, or you're having kombucha, or other fermented items in your diet that are going to bring more probiotics into your system. But do be aware that some of the good bacteria will be destroyed when it goes through your digestive tract and it's exposed to stomach acid. That's why you'll see in supplements it says that it's protected against the stomach acid, but there's no protection here because this is just food. Okay. So curtido is the name of what we're making. It is similar to sauerkraut, but it's a Salvadoran style. So I don't know if you know what pupusa is, but pupusa is like a flat, almost like a pancake kind of thing, and they put cheese in it, and then they put the curtido on top. You can use this on fish tacos. You can use this on salads. Maybe more Mexican style salads. Beans and rice would be delicious with this. Anything that you would like the taste of cilantro and red onions and things like that, this would work great for you. So let's get started on our recipe and start cooking, okay? So get your ingredients ready if you're cooking along with me, or get your recipe ready if you are just following along. What our recipe is going to make about 2 cups of curtido when we are done with it. But it's going to start out much greater than that. But you break it down. So the first thing we're going to do is take our red cabbage, and we're going to remove the outer. I've taken a quarter of a small head of red cabbage. Looks like a little bit bigger. Actually, it was kind of a medium head. And I'm going to cut that into. First, I'm going to remove the outer leaves and save those because you're going to use them later. And I'm going to cut this. Now, you can do a lot of ways of shredding your cabbage. I like to use the mandolin because it makes a very thin cabbage result. So that's what we're going to use today. If you haven't used a mandolin, do be careful. It's very sharp. You're supposed to use this from the beginning, but I find it hard to use that from the beginning. So I usually end up waiting until I get a little further down. And see, the size of the cabbage that you're getting there is very thin. Let's see if we can get that same result if we're chopping it. Well, actually we can. I haven't tried chopping it, so I think we'll go ahead and chop it. So if you don't have a mandolin, you can just use your chef's knife and chop this as fine as you can. I think if I was to use the mandolin for this today, it would take me too long and you would all fall asleep watching me. So we'll just do the chopping. It might be a little thicker than what I normally do, but that's okay, because at home you can chop it fine as you like, and we'll still have a good result. So you're just going to put that in your bowl. Usually I chop everything up beforehand, before I come, but the problem is I didn't want it to break down, to start breaking down and releasing its liquids, even though what really gives it the liquid releasing factor is when you add the salt to it. But also I didn't want it to start oxidizing, so the less you cut before and leave, the better off your nutrients are. The nutrients stay without being exposed to the air. You're going to have more nutrients in your vegetables the longer you leave them. Yeah, this is going to be thicker, but I think it'll be okay. We'll see how it works. So that should be about 2 cups, maybe more today, could be more. No, it's a little more. This is a 4 cup. It's about 3 cups, but that's okay. I've got a bigger jar than usual. All right, then the next thing we're going to do is the red onion, and we're going to thinly slice that. I think I will try to do that on the mandolin. I tried doing this in something called a salad shooter. I don't know if you have one of those, but it was very difficult to do the cabbage and the couple of other things. I had a hard time using the salad shooter. You could also put this in your food processor, and that would be a good way to do it too. Just like when you make salsa and you chop everything up and you put in your food processor, that would also work great. On the mandolin, you're just getting a nice little arm workout here. And we're just going to put see how nice and fine that comes compared to how thick this is. So I do like using the mandolin better, but just for time's sake today, we'll just do it this way. And I think in the food processor, it's going to break it down quite fine as well. All right, the next item we're going to put is the carrot. And the carrot, you can do it however you want, but you can do little shreds like this with your peeler. You can put it in your food processor again, but I like to have the strings of it. I think it looks pretty. And you could also put it on your mandolin, but you're going to get little circles instead. And this is pretty quick, so just however you like to do it is fine. This red onion is very strong and it's burning my eyes. And I cut the end of it, but I did not cut this end of it because it gives me something to hold on to at the end. Same as if you're, if you're making little circles on the mandolin, you want something to hold on to. And the colors of this are going to be so beautiful. When it merges together, you start losing it. It starts all turning red, as you can see in this completed curtivo. But yeah, see, you want to have something to hold on to because I'm running out of room. Okay, carrot, and then the mini peppers. These are nice on the mandolin. So I love mini peppers. I love mini peppers. I love mini avocados. I don't know why, but I feel like they're more flavorful and just easier to work with. So I just like mini peppers. And you're going to make little thin slices of this. And that's not working too well. So we're going to use the knife for that. Again, when you're doing it in the food processor, you just throw everything in. If you want to add more heat, you could think about using jalapenos instead of the mini peppers, depending on your heat tolerance. I would take the seeds out, but some people like it really hot. So depending on what you like, jalapeno would be a nice addition here. When I make it, I do not use the jalapeno because some people in my household don't like it so hot. And if you're accident prone, and you know who I'm talking to, you don't want to use the mandolin perhaps because it's very easy to cut yourself. So do be careful with that. This is nice. These are nice strips, if you can see that. So just slicing these mini peppers is not a bad option. But again, at home, you might throw it all in the food processor. It just depends on the texture that you want to have when you're done. Okay, then garlic. We're going to, here's our garlic. And we're not going to put that on the mandolin. We're going to chop it. Now, you could put it in a press and press the garlic. I like to have little pieces of garlic in my food so that you get a little surprise when you bite into it. And if you mince it, you don't really get that. So I like to have some pieces, actually. It's hard to do this with gloves on because I keep, the gloves keep getting in the way of the knife. If you have any questions while we're doing this, go ahead and put those questions in the chat and we'll get to them. So 2 cloves of garlic, you could put more. I think up to 4 cloves of garlic would be delicious. Depends again on how you like it. This recipe is very, very adaptable. The main thing you're doing here is you're fermenting. So remember that it's not really, but you want it to taste good too, right? So whatever your taste is how you're going to make it. If you don't like garlic, put less or don't put it. If you don't like red onions, don't worry about it. If you just want to ferment cabbage, you can do that too. In the same process, that we're doing, and all you put is the cabbage and the salt, and you're going to have fermented cabbage. So when I say it's very adaptable, you can go all the way down to just the cabbage. Okay, so garlic, the cilantro, The cilantro, about 1/4 of a bunch, depending on the size of your bunch. And remember the properties of the cilantro. It's antimicrobial. So I take the whole thing. I use the stems, I use the leaves, everything, down to the end, because the whole plant has good properties. Now, if you're doing it as a garnish, if you're doing cilantro as a garnish, maybe you don't want to put all the stems in there. But if you're using this in a recipe, I don't see any reason to throw away a good portion of the plant when you could use it. So you're just going to chop it. And we're probably going to end up with about 4 cups of ingredients here, I hope. It's okay if it's more because I do have a bigger jar than usual. And that will break down to about 2 cups. So it breaks down about half. So you throw in your cilantro, and now we're going to go with the spices and the seasonings. I mean, it already looks so pretty. The colors in here are gorgeous. Okay. And that's a big part of cooking, and a big part of eating is, what we're seeing. That's the first place our appetite starts, is in our eyes. So we're going to put a very good amount of salt here. And you want to use a good quality of salt. I'm using a sea salt here. Nice French sea salt. And we're going to put 3/4 of a tablespoon. I'm going to put a little bit more because I think I have a little bit more ingredients here than usual. It's a lot of salt. But that is what's going to break down your, draw out the liquid from your vegetables. So you do need that salt to do this because you need the liquid, the brine, to ferment in. We're going to put oregano, a teaspoon of that. I like Mexican oregano, it's my favorite. I'm going to put a big teaspoon. And then we're going to do cumin. Now I'm saying 1 teaspoon. You can put what you like. That might be more than you like. It might not be enough. Whoops, that's a little bit. This one I'm not going to fill up more than a teaspoon. Okay. Do it the way you like the flavors, however you like it. You don't need the chipotle. You don't need the oregano. You do need the salt. So now what you're going to do is you're going to start working it. And again, because it's a little thicker than usual, it may not break down quite as much as it usually does, but we'll see. But at home, when you do it fine, either in your food processor or on the mandolin, I just don't get as fine of a cut with the knife. But see, it's already breaking down. And you're just going to do this. You're going to feel it getting softer. It's kind of like when, if you watched us when we made the kale salad, and we just work it and work it and work it until it's nice and soft. And when you're doing this at home, you're going to let it sit for about 20 minutes before you even start doing this. That's going to allow everything to, you're going to mix it together, but then you're going to let it sit before you start massaging it, because that's going to allow the water to come out of the vegetables, and that's where you're going to get your brine. We may not achieve that today because we don't have the time to let it sit, and you'd be bored, but you'll get the general idea. So pretend like we've let this sit and we have a lot of liquid going on here. And when we're done, I'm going to show you the amount of liquid that I have in my the already prepared curtido. That is still fermenting, by the way. I made it Sunday, and I should have made it earlier, but I just ran out of time on Saturday. And so, all right, so we've already, you see how much we've cut this down? This was full before. Now we've got like half a bowl, and you can see the liquid coming out. Okay. So it's working. It would work better if we had more time, but that's okay. And the colors, again, and the smell is wonderful. So this may show me a different way. You know, if this works great by using it with the knife, I don't know, it might be even a way that I might do it from now on instead of using the mandolin, because I kind of like the bigger pieces. I like the way the bigger pieces of cabbage look in here. Okay, that's about how much. Once you've gotten it down to about half of what you had, then you know that you've massaged it enough. And let's check and see. So now we're down to about 2 cups. We were at about 3, so it's not quite half, but what that's going to do for today. So you want it to be about half of what you started with, and it will be, because you'll have a lot more water, and you'll have it will have sat for 20 minutes. Okay. So then you're going to take your jar, and it says a sterilized jar. This can be a jar that you've put in the dishwasher, or you can boil water in a big pot and put it in the pot for 10 minutes boiling lightly. I would heat up your glass first before you put it in the boiling water. Thank you. And but you want to have a nice clean jar, and the reason for that is because you're growing good bacteria. You don't want to have it fighting with bad bacteria. You don't want the bad bacteria to take over. So you don't want any mold or bad bacteria coming into it by having a vessel that isn't sparkling clean. Okay? So you're going to put all of your curtido into your jar. And I normally use this size jar, but I didn't have another one, so I'm using this jar, and it's going to be just fine. And then you're going to put it in there, and you're going to press it down. Now, like I said, we don't have enough liquid here today because of not holding on to it, not letting it sit. More liquid will form. Probably by the time I get back to the office, I'll have plenty of liquid. If you find that after 20 minutes of sitting and then doing all your massaging, you don't have enough liquid, you can then make a brine that you would pour into the vegetables. And the brine is, let me see, I think it's 1 cup to 1 teaspoon, 1 cup water to 1 teaspoon. Yes, 1 teaspoon sea salt to 1 cup of water is the ratio that you would make a brine out of. I've never had to do that. So I don't think you'll have to if you let it sit and get the water, etc. Okay? So pour as much of the water in as possible. And then, remember we held out the cabbage leaves. The reason we did that is we're going to use, these are the outer leaves. Once this is done, you're going to throw it away. But first you're going to take any kind of presser. This is, from my juicer, but I just brought it for this. And press it down in the jar, okay? Just press it. And see, we're already, I don't know if you can see that, But we're already, not quite, but I'm already seeing liquid coming up. So what you want to do is when you're making this and you have all the liquid will be higher than the vegetables. You want to make sure that the vegetables are pressed down below the liquid. So, and you want it to stay there. You do not want, so you're going to put the reserved cabbage leaves, the outer leaves, on top and make like a barrier. Make a barrier that you can press on. To hold down the vegetables under the liquid that we don't really have. Yep, we do have liquid. So now, just this amount of playing with this has created, so think about how much liquid you'll have when you're doing this. If you can see that, you have liquid all the way to the top of the vegetables. And if you can see inside there, no. I'm going to bring it over to you because I do want you to see this. No, you can't. Never mind. But there's liquid sitting on top of my cabbage leaves, and that is what you want. Now, what you could do at this point is you could use a weight, a glass weight, and put that on top. It's a fermenting weight. Or another trick is you can take a BPA-free plastic bag, put it inside the jar. You're going to put it inside the jar, and then you're going to take water, and you're going to fill up that plastic bag. Seal it. And that's going to be your weight. That's going to hold the vegetables. That water is not going into your vegetables, but it's going to hold your vegetables down below the water that was created from the brine, actually, that was created from the vegetables and the salt. Okay? And that is how you would make it. This is the completed curtivo. It's completed. It's not completely fermented, but I did start to see some bubbles coming up, and that is what you want to look for. You want to see tiny bubbles, not in the wine, but you want to see tiny bubbles coming up from the bottom, and what that means is the fermentation is starting. And you'll see that after about, well, it depends on how warm your house is. If your house is, quite warm, it's going to ferment quicker. If it's cooler, it's going to ferment slower. So it really depends. So I did this Sunday. This is Thursday. That's 4 days, and I'm starting to see some bubbles. If you don't see bubbles, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not fermenting, but so far I've never had it where I don't see bubbles. But I have read that you don't have to have bubbles. So here is my plastic bag that I put last week. Look at how much water, how much brine. Can you see that? Okay, so you can see how much brine is over the top of the vegetables. Okay? That's a lot of liquid. That's all the brine. And I do have the leaves of the cabbage in there as well. Okay? So that is how you do it. I'm going to let this ferment. You can let it ferment for minimum 5 days, maximum 3 weeks. After it's fermented, and you can taste it along the way, do check it every day to make sure that the vegetables are below the water. If it's not, push it down. Check it every day. After 5-6 days, you can start to taste it, see if you like it. If you think you can take more fermentation, go ahead and take it longer. And just experiment with it. After you are done with the fermentation, then you can put it in the refrigerator. It will keep for up to 6 months. Hopefully you're going to eat it before then. But if you're thinking this is a long process and I don't want to just make one jar, then you can make more, and it'll keep in the refrigerator for up to 6 months, and it will continue to ferment a little bit because in the refrigerator it's cold, so it's going to slow down the fermentation a lot. But you see the difference? This is how it looked when I made it on Sunday, and this is how it looks today. Okay? And I've got some questions here. Sorry I didn't get to them while I was doing this. How long can you keep it in the refrigerator? Up to 6 months. If you make the brine, should you boil the water first? Yes, thank you. Yes, on the recipe you'll see that the water should be either boiled or it should be filtered, boiled, and cooled. Okay, that will make sure that the brine that you're putting into the vegetables is clean. In lieu of massaging the vegetables, could you use the food processor? I don't know if you're going to get the liquid that you need in the food processor. You're using the food processor to process the vegetables just to get them down to where they are. I haven't tried doing that, so thank you. So you could you play with it. See if you get the liquid that you need. You need to have enough liquid that it's going to be, the vegetables are going to be below the water, the limit of the water. Do you put it in the fridge while fermenting? No. Leave it on the counter. Again, depending on how warm or cold your house is, my house is about 72, 73 usually during the day. But in the summer, in the winter, it may ferment a little slower because it's cooler. But no, don't put it in the refrigerator while you're fermenting it. So are there any other questions? That's it? Okay, if you have more questions at a later date, please contact me at 2life-2health@hotmail.com. You can visit me on my website at www.2life-2health.com. And if you have missed any previous videos, I have a listing of the videos there that you can link. The links are there on my webpage. Scroll down and it'll say past videos. Click on that, and then you'll have all the links for all the past videos, okay? So if there are no more questions, I believe September we are not here. So in October, I will see you, I think the early part of October. And I'll look forward to seeing you then. And if you have questions in the meantime, let me know. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy your Oh, did I tell you what to put the curtido on? I don't know, did I tell you? Tacos, papusa, I did tell you, never mind. Okay, so enjoy your curtido, and I'll see you in October, and happy fall, it's coming soon.